Take one. Hello there, Lavender and Thieves Co. friends. I thought I would take a moment and make a video about what I was speaking about in the How to Brew a Proper Cup of Tea blog, article, whatever you want to call it. I thought that a lot of you might not know exactly the terminology that I was speaking about, and you might not have a visual to go along with it. So I thought that I would explain to you guys how to make a cup of tea through just a strainer like this, or it's actually called an infuser. And then also through a teapot, which is a little bit different of a process. So first we can start with making a cup of tea just with the infuser. So this is just some loose leaf tea we have here. It's not mine, just a random black tea. And so, actually, I should explain this first. This is a teaspoon, and this just measures 1 teaspoon, which would go with about 8 ounces of hot water. Pardon me, that was my kettle. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a teaspoon of this black tea. We're going to place it in one of the hemispheres of the infuser. We don't need the teaspoon anymore. And then how these things work is it just acts as like a really smaller capsule than a teapot to catch all the tea leaves and to make sure that you don't have to use this tool, which we'll talk about in a minute. So to use this, we're just gonna close it. And then there's a latch right here that we just put down. And so in a way, you kind of just made your own tea bag. So then you place the mesh ball in your cup, and then this is kind of, this charm right here just acts as a weight to keep the mesh ball in the cup. And so you can just leave that there, and then I've got here my, sorry, it's kind of just my kettle here of hot water. It's actually just below boiling, so it's black tea, but we can talk more about that in another video. So we're going to pour in our boiling water. Into the cup. And this is going to sit for about 5 minutes, depending on the strength that you want. And then you really don't need to do anything else. I like to stir mine around just to make sure that the tea leaves are evenly getting into the water and distributing their flavor and aromas and things like that. But really, this just needs to sit for 5 minutes. And then what we're gonna do, once we're done with that, I'm gonna take this away, is you're gonna take something like this. This is just like a tea dish. I'm gonna shake that out just so you don't get extra water on it. And then you're gonna put it either just like in the sink or something, but this is gonna be really hot. So that's why I choose to put it in this dish here, which is meant for that. And so we're gonna replace this cup with one that I brewed a little while ago. And so this has been sitting for at least 5 minutes, honestly, probably a bit longer. And so this is ready to go if you just want to drink it straight. However, usually with black teas, I like to add some cream. And so to give you an idea of how much you would probably just want to add without overdoing it, I would do maybe that much. It's not like coffee, so you're gonna want to take it easy on the cream there. But at the end, it should look like a pretty light coffee. And so that is your cup of tea, just using an infuser. Next, we're going to conquer the teapot. This is not a traditional like English teapot, and that's called a brown Betty teapot. I don't have one right now to show you, but this is a different type of teapot. It can be used for the exact same thing. It's just made out of cast iron, and it has right here under it, it comes with this plate. I'll turn it over so you can see. And what this acts as for the teapot is a warmer. So you would place this as the base, put a tea light in here to keep it warm once it's done brewing, if you want to keep, brewing it. And then this thing goes on top so that there's a barrier and the teapot can sit on that warmer. And then that will just keep it warm. You wouldn't want to brew the tea just with this tea light. It's not going to get hot enough or even enough with the heat. And so usually teapots like this will also come with this strainer that would just sit in there. But for this purpose, I'm going to take it out and explain a little bit more about tea leaves and their best brewing situation. So tea leaves are going to taste the best when they have a ton of space to expand in the hot water and to brew properly. So when we have infusers, like I just showed you, like this one, there's not a ton of room for the tea leaves to expand. So to make a proper cup of tea, we really want the tea leaves to expand as much as possible. And I thought I'd also show you a different example of what an infuser might look like as well. So this is another one that I have. It's just in the shape of a music note. But just showing that not all tea infusers look exactly the same. This one is also another one that I use to brew this cup of tea. So all these can look different. They're just vessels to make sure the tea is being contained so there's not a big mess. So you could use this in the teapot and it would act as the same purpose, and you just take your loose leaf and your teaspoon. I mean, this is less than that, but then you just put that in there, pour your hot water over it, and then you'd be all set and you could let it brew. However, I don't want to do that because I kind of want to showcase what a teapot's purpose is for brewing. So in this case, what we're going to do, this could make about 2 to 3 big cups of tea, so more like this mug size, and this could make multiple teacups like this as well. So I'm gonna put about 2 or 3 heaping teaspoons, which looks kind of like that. So 1, 2, 3. That's just because I like my tea extra strong as well. Cap it off. And so this is ready for the water. So again, I have my kettle here, and I'm just gonna pour the water directly into the teapot. And what this is gonna do is allow the tea leaves to swirl in this circular motion around the teapot, and that gives it kind of optimal conditions for proper brewing. There we go, empty the kettle. And so, like I said, this is a teapot that's meant to be warmed, but that's not the brewing process here. So this just needs to again sit for 5 minutes. The brewing time and temperature doesn't change. It's just a little bit different of a brewing process. This is more, for lack of a better word, ceremonial or more ritualistic if you want to have like a time and a space set away just for tea time. Or if you're just really want to make the best cup of tea possible, I would always recommend using a teapot so that those leaves can swirl around in that circular motion on the outsides of, or not the outsides, towards the edges of the teapot, and then make that circular motion through the water. And that just allows it, like I said, for the tea leaves to fully expand, to get all over the water. And sometimes in the case with clay teapots, like a Brown Betty, which is very traditional, especially in England or the United Kingdom, sometimes the clay will even add to the complexity of the flavor. It's the same thing with kind of Dutch ovens, which I know it's like a completely different subject, but it kind of has the same properties when we're talking about pottery and stoneware and all those kinds of things. But in this case, it's just cast iron, which is totally fine. So we're just gonna pretend that that has been sitting for 5 minutes. I top that off. I want to move the handle back so that we can brew at the proper angle. And then I'm going to use this thing right here. This is a tea strainer for loose leaf tea. It's usually used for a pot of tea when that's your brewing method. And it comes in 2 parts usually. This part is where it's going to catch the extra liquid that's still within the tea leaves that's just going to slowly drain out. But when you're using it for practical purposes, you're going to just take the top part, which is, you can see has little holes in here, and that's just going to strain out the tea leaves from the tea in here. And you're going to place that at the top part of whatever mug or teacup you're going to be drinking out of. And then you're just going to take the teapot and pour directly over it until you get to about what you want. And then, as you can see here, this just drains out the tea leaves that we haven't filtered out yet. So this is just honestly an external filter. And then we take this, put it over here, and this would usually look a bit darker, just because we didn't let it brew all the way. That's why it looks like that. And then, just like with the mug, you can add in your cream or sugar or whatever you wish to make it how you like it. And I'm not even gonna tackle tea bags at the moment. This obviously just has to do with loose leaf tea. And so I would recommend using an infuser in a mug when you are either on the go or you just want a quick cup of tea and you're not too concerned with it being like the best cup of tea that you've ever made, which is totally fine. I do this on a daily basis. And again, that would be with something like this. And this is still pretty good too, because this particular tea infuser is about 2 inches big, which gives it more than enough room for the tea leaves to totally expand. However, they're not going to, because like I said, in a teapot, you're swirling them around in the teapot and they have a ton of room and they're just gonna naturally move about more because of the water circulation. But the infuser is still a great option. And then, yeah, for the teapot, again, you're gonna have different options for teapots and infusers in the teapot and how you want to do that. But this is just like a very easy way to start, at least. And so you would never add in like your cream or sugar or anything into the teapot. This is purely just for brewing the loose tea. I mean, honestly, you could also use tea bags in here as well. It's just a vessel for the straight up tea. And then you would dress your tea once it's in the cup or the mug. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about here. If you have any more questions about tea in general or brewing or just anything tea related, go to lavenderandthievesco.com, which is probably where you already are, and head over to the contact tab, and that would be a page where you can send in a message to me and then I'll get a direct email. And trust me, I have time. I can totally respond to your questions or concerns or anything like that. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to conversing with you all on the website. Thanks.